Hey guys, today we'll be talking about breaking the 5-digit and 6-digit damage ceiling from 10k all the way up to 100k. So keep in mind, this guide is not one of those, hey, quick, easy fix how to raise your damage 10 times, 10,000, 100,000 in one easy step. No, it's not. This is more of a long-term strategy and approach on how to build up your characters to get those numbers. It's not gonna come quick and easy. It's gonna take a lot of resources. But if you're trying to play Genshin Impact for the long term, these might be some things worth taking into account. So basically now I'm just showing you my build for Xingqiu. Um, the key point here is not to like have you build the exact same thing as me, but I'm just giving you a background on where my damage is coming from, and I'll explain it thoroughly throughout this video. So there's two things that majorly come into play from my experience. So I'm AR 50 right now, and what I come to notice is that the later you go into the game, the harder your talents scale up depending on the base stats that it came from, and you can double that essentially just by pumping up crit damage. So the ideal crit damage ratio is 1 is to 2. So if you have like 40-50 crit rate, you'd have like 100 to 120 crit damage, and that's like the sweet spot for me in my opinion. Now it's because you already have that multiplier from the skills, your attacks, which grow for each ascension. But if you factor in the elemental damage, such as vaporize and melt, it just like blows up those numbers real quick. So using this mechanic, you'll probably see the biggest damage coming from a pyro or a hydro user, because they're gonna be the ones to capitalize on the 2 times multiplier on melt and on vaporize. Of course, that's like not even touching on Mona, because like her ultimate is like an entirely different skill altogether. So I built my Klee around a rotating type build, quick swap, which maximizes her C4, and her C4 deals 555% of her attack damage in a single burst. So if you take into account the melt and the crit damage, it scales up to a lot. So what I've noticed with pyro characters, their skills don't really have a really high base percentage even after ascending their talents. That's probably because the game wants you to utilize a elemental reaction to bump it up, like in comparison to electro characters like Lisa. Like Electro doesn't have any big damage multipliers coming from a reaction such as melt or vaporize, but her holding her E scales up to like 700, 800, all the way probably up to 1000 if I ever get around to maxing her. So I guess that's my point here whenever they introduce more characters into the game, to see what kind of element they are, if they can play off vaporize or melt, or you just check the base stats of their elemental skill and elemental burst. For example, Jean's E on low levels starts at like 290%, whereas Klee's mines starts at like 80%. Yo, I'm so sorry if I sound like I'm just rambling over here, not matching whatever's shown on the video, but I think that everything in the video is like pretty much self-explanatory. I proc off Klee on that melt and modify some artifacts to see how much gains I get. And I just really want to push that idea to you guys, that how important artifacts are late game. Like for example, if you want crit damage, you're gonna pick up an artifact that starts at like crit damage 7.9, and for each 4 levels you have a chance of rolling into that for the same value. So you get I've seen guys having artifacts of like 40% crit damage in one artifact. So if you're in this game for the long grind and you start farming artifacts, these are like the key factors that you want to consider. If you want to use that artifact, you want to risk it for the biscuit. Try rolling up to like level 8, see if it rolls 2 on a stat you want, and you build your character from there. So I'm not going to go too deep into details on weapons, I'll leave it to you guys, your discretion on what to use and what to upgrade, as long as it makes sense in your mind, like hey, you have a good substat, crit rate, crit damage, or attack percent, and if you feel that you have too much attack percent or crit rate in your weapon, then you just like supplement that in your artifacts. It's basically one whole big picture, where if you're lacking artifacts substats, you make it up for weapon substats, and vice versa. And I've said this before, I'm not saying this is the most optimal, the best way to build your character. No, I have not done like all the possible math there is. But if any of these make sense to you and you like this content, please give a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be making more videos soon. Peace out.